Wall Street reacted positively today to end a very wild week. All three indexes saw gains as investors weighed in on the ongoing tariff developments. The trade battle between the United States and China is still weighing down the markets. Fox's Connor Hansen reports.
After President Trump raised tariffs on China to 145%, China responded Friday with its own 125% tariffs on the U.S. China insists it will continue to fight, calling Washington's escalating tariffs a joke. The White House says it's not backing down.
The president made it very clear when the United States is punched, he will punch back harder, and he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker and our companies that have been ripped off for far too long.
The changing tariffs have sent the markets up and down throughout the week.
62% of Americans have now invested in the equity markets. This huge volatility, it impacts Main Street.
The leader of one of the world's largest hedge funds says an economic downturn is still possible.
But I do believe in the short run that we're going to have rising inflation, and we have a potential of having a short-term recession.
Meanwhile, the White House says the tariffs are working, bringing dozens of countries to the table. One of the EU's economic leaders says they are ready to work out a deal.
We're ready to negotiate a mutually acceptable outcome while defending our economic interests.
The White House says it already has more than 15 offers from different countries and hopes to have the first deal done within weeks. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox 4 News.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. defending cuts in his Department of Health Care Services, including research on diabetes and AIDS, has been halted. Vaccine clinics are closing, and some FDA employees say they cannot carry out their basic functions. Kennedy announced yesterday some of that funding will be restored. Today, he said cuts, though, are essential. Democrats responding.
Our public health departments are hurting right now. They're shutting down. It's devastating.
Democrats without evidence claim cuts to health care services are extending the measles outbreak. Kennedy says he wants to work with Congress to continue making cuts to HHS programs. The Department of Government Efficiency says it's saved American taxpayers more than $150 billion so far, but according to the Treasury Department, spending is up more than $139 billion in the first 3 months of President Trump's new term, with the federal government borrowing $41 million more during that period than last year. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says if the spending doesn't slow down, the U.S. will hit its debt ceiling by the early summer. Critics from both parties are questioning whether DOGE is making matters worse, with cuts that later end up being overturned by the courts.
I've never seen any of their responses contain cost-benefit analysis, as they wipe out people from offices who they have to recall 2 or 3 days later.
You watch. Next year, we'll spend more money than we did this year, and the year after that, we will too.
President Trump is defending DOGE. He says the DOGE team is finding and stopping fraud.